figure out a way to know your people on a deeper level. And then you can design all the other things around them uniquely. Their development plan, their career goals, your tough conversations with them. If you know how they respond to tough conversations, plan going in having a conversation that will land well. There's so many ways you can impact a person by knowing who they are on a deep level.
What does real investment in people? This is crazy. This is a big topic as of recent. I've been engaged in a lot of this lately. What does a real investment in people look like from your perspective?
Yeah.
I think it's changing in society as a whole, but give us your perspective on how we're investing in people today.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I'm going to guess that my answer won't be impressive in the number of syllables in the words or the model I share from a textbook. It's going to be super, super simple. But I think investing in people is way more than dollars of training or comp and benefits. Investing in people is really, really simple. Do you see them? There's currency in whether you see your people or not. Do you see them? Do you know them? Because it's not just the same to see them. Do you genuinely know them? Do you meet them where they are? Because not everybody is where you are. Do you develop them? Do you encourage them? Do you celebrate them? And do you challenge them? And I think if you do all of those things, that person has received an incredible investment in their development as a person, but as an employee in an organization. And unfortunately, it's really simple and it's not always executed. And it's not like it's a complex model, and that's why it doesn't get executed very often. Sometimes managers are just busy, or leaders are just spread too thin and they've got too many people. I really think it is simple as, do you notice the people that are in your care? Do you know them deeply? And do you meet them where they are? Those three right there, the next 4 or 5 are leadership 101, management 101. But to me, those first 3 are really, really important, and they're really, really fundamental. And oftentimes they get taken for granted. I would love to give you a story about the meet them where they are part of that. So
Yeah.
Part of my role at Harvest Group was we opened up offices around the country. We opened up 4 while I was there. And so I would try to get to each office once a quarter and spend intentional time with each person if possible. Now, the offices were 10 to 15 people each at the time. And so I could go in for 4 days and get a coffee and a lunch and an afternoon snack and, a walk or something with everybody. Well, I went to the Cincinnati office. It was a crazy busy week. And I got to most people until the morning of my last full day there. And I realized that Meredith and I had not had a chance to connect yet. But I also heard Meredith that morning telling another coworker about how crazy her week has been, and that she's got another client dinner, or she had one the night before. She's a single mom with 2 girls, and the week just was crazy. Well, the only slot I had left for a meaningful connection was dinner, my last night there. And I had just overheard her telling someone that she had been away from her girls 2 or 3 nights that week for client commitments and things. And so I went up to Meredith and I said, "Hey, I always want to spend time with you when I come up to town. And the way the week is shaken out, like dinner tonight is our only slot." And I could just see her face like, "Oh no, like I'm going to have to figure out a way to do this again." And I said, "But I also know the week that you've had." And so I'm trying to meet her where she is. And I said, "Hey, we need to eat dinner. Here's what I'd like to propose. Ask your girls where they'd like to go for dinner, and we'll take them to dinner together. Or ask them their favorite takeout place, and I'll stop and get it, and swing by and bring you guys dinner. And you could just see the look of relief on her face that she didn't have to find childcare coverage again for another last minute work thing. And so I will tell you, we had the best time at Chuck E. Cheese in Covington, Kentucky that night. Her girls went home with, I don't know, 400 tickets that were worth absolutely nothing, but it was a great night. I got to go back up the ladder one notch. I got to know a lot about Meredith and her girls that night. I got to meet her where she was. I got the opportunity to spend time with her. So I just think that there's so many things that are easy. They're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. But if leaders can just start at the left side of that progression, see them, know them, meet them where they are, encourage them, develop them, challenge them, and celebrate them, you're gonna move the needle when you're getting to know your people that way.
It's almost self-serving, and that's what I tell my team. It's almost self-serving because when you do those things well,
yep,
it raises us in our role. It's raising them, and that's really why we have to do these things. It's really important that we make sure we celebrate people and that we raise them up to our ability. As Maxwell says, we're the lid. We've got to do to our best. And it's almost self-serving because it comes back to us tenfold or 10x.
Yeah.
It comes back in a powerful way because not only did we impact them, but they impacted others in the same exact way. And so it's almost cheating the system. And I always like to go deeper on that because that is leadership. And when you do that well, it isn't today. Leadership will start to reciprocate to you later. That's where that overnight success story comes from, that it isn't today, but it is today for them.
Yeah. And important to note, though, nothing that I talked about on that list cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
It costs some time. It takes an investment of time. And by the way, I'm not downplaying the immense benefit of financial investment in a leader's development, whether it's through a coach or through a cohort experience. I make a joke when people say, I just don't feel like I've received the training I need to be where I want to be. And I say, hey, I'll give you one guess as to how many training requests for investment I've said no to in the last 10 years. The answer is none. Zero. So the issue isn't budget. The issue is desire and commitment. So don't hear me say that it's easy and free. There's places for investment for sure of financial dollars, but I think the bigger investment is in the people.
And the people. And that segues great into this next question we have then. What should leaders think about development and growth for their teams? This is really kind of aligned with that first question, but what should leaders be thinking about in the development and growth of their teams? It's my personal mission is to grow people through new experiences and structured education. That's what I get up off my pillow for.
Yeah.
Is really to impact lives. And we changed it in early 90s, I would say, that we recognized we were kind of creating troubles at home because we were growing one of the significance in the home and not the other. And so what I did is, if I'm going to pay for your education, you got to go home and sell your significant other on the fact that I'll pay for both of you to grow both of you. So everybody's growing together, but I'll pay for both of you. If you can't sell it at home, then you can't go. And so
it's a two or nothing.
It's a two or nothing deal, and it's really been beneficial. We've had lots of families grow together because of that opportunity. So what should leaders think about development and growth for their teams? How do we do that?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I don't want to go back and rehash it, but if you don't know your team, like uniquely know who they are and what would drive them, start there, because that's where real growth happens. If you come to someone with an opportunity for development and it's in a function or a role that they've never even considered or don't want to work in, like that's wasted. But if they've come to you and said, hey, I really want to develop my ability to tell stories through data, I think that will be better for my role or whatever, then you can tailor the growth that you see for them and the opportunities you have to be meaningfully relevant to where they've told you they want to go. Because again, if you get buy-in to their development plan, you both know where they want to go. But to hear your story about impacting people's growth, are you familiar with a company called Jancoa Janitorial in Dayton, Ohio? So it's
Sounds familiar, but
Mary Miller was the founder. I believe she was the founder, maybe co-founder. But they had a janitorial supply, or not supply business, a janitorial business that cleaned commercial office buildings. And they realized that their turnover matched the industry, which was 140%. And obviously that's not a fun place to be in a service business. Like that's crazy.
Mhm.
Well, they realized that some of their folks just weren't able to show up to work because they didn't have reliable transportation. And so her husband bought a 15-passenger van and would do routes around the city every morning to pick up people that needed a ride to work. And you might think that the story stops there because, oh wow, they really went out of their way to alleviate a pain point for their team. But they wrote a book called The Dream Manager. And what happened next was the husband who was driving the van would start learning about the people in the van and what they dreamed about and what their families were like. And what they realized is they had people in that van that they're seventh generation and none of them have been to college. Or they're third generation in the US and they've never owned a home across any of the three generations of people. And so they started meeting with these folks and asking them what their dreams were. And then they started helping them achieve those dreams, whether it was get them on Dave Ramsey's, cash management envelope system, or it was setting them up with a mortgage banker that would, work creatively with them on the financing. Well, if you can imagine, if you help someone get their first home in three generations in the family, they're going to be pretty loyal to your organization because you've fundamentally changed the trajectory of their life. And so they created a role in the company called a dream manager, where every employee can meet once a quarter with the dream manager and understand what the dreams are of the family. Well, they've expanded that now. They have like 50 now. And every family member gets a meeting once a year, and every employee gets a meeting once a quarter. And they're changing lives by making dreams come true for people. And they're of course the data point at the end of the story is their turnover is like 14%. In an industry that was more than 100%. So I think that this idea of helping people grow, not just skills on the job, but fundamentally like life growth. And it's exactly what you talked about is when folks get a chance to get their degree or get their education or further their education. And of course, then you double down and said, now I want to help the whole family. I think those are amazing stories of how, yes, you can train someone to be a better analyst, or you can train someone to be a better technician in the field. But if you can change the trajectory of that family's life, that's a whole nother level of connecting with people, developing people, setting them up for way, way more possibilities in life.
And just think of from a global standpoint. I mean, if you think bigger picture, the impact an individual like that is going to have beyond that moment. I mean, they're going
Yes.
to impact their generationally forever. They're going to change lives in their family, but beyond their family, in other families, because they're going to reciprocate that same thing. They're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Maxwell
Neighbors,
had a
coworkers, friends at church, like it's going to rub off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy that worked for Maxwell or worked with Maxwell, he was this janitorial service.
Huh.
And the gal came to him and said he's living in this big marble house and has all this marble, and he's telling the story. And he says she was just like, well, maybe one day I would be able to have this. And he tells the story to the completion. She ultimately bought his company and she bought that house that she was responsible
Oh
for
my
cleaning
gosh.
and maintaining. She ultimately got to buy it and live in it because I was getting chills telling the
That's
story.
crazy.
It's so powerful to listen, and then they bring her up on stage, and she tells her
Yeah.
side of the story and how it unfolded, and then the anticipation of that. And it made me, in this line is literally the law of anticipation, as we call it, is being able to say, here's the growth opportunity, and it's in 2 months, and here's when we're going to start, or the annual
Yeah.
family time, or that quarterly. The law of anticipation says they'll build momentum in anticipation of that meeting. And that momentum will go up because of their anticipation. I wrote this chapter called In Sickness and in Health in one of my books, and it talks about how employees become sick. And it's really based on the health of the company, not the individual. We create health scenarios for them to escape bad situations in the office. And we used to say, okay, that person's going to be sick again on Monday. And the reality is my company was sick, and they were displaying what we were actually giving.
Hmm.
And for me to have that moment of awakening, that's when we started shifting, and we're like, we've got to create a power of anticipation, because if you're hungry, you're going to show up.
Yeah.
And if you create a fullness that there's zero reason to be at the table, they're not coming in, they're going to be sick.
Hmm.
And they're sick, and then I even elaborate on what their sicknesses are in that chapter. I talk about how the phone calls come in, but the reality is create the momentum, the power of anticipation, set in place those opportunities you just talked about. I think that's
Yeah.
so powerful for a
Amazing.
team. Wow. All right. Well, this should go on for 3 hours or 4, maybe. We should talk all day. Strong cultures support both accountability and care. Let's ask that question, and maybe in multiple ways. But the strong cultures we talked about earlier is having those values really. How does it support both the accountability and the care of the team?
Yeah. I at the risk of getting too vulnerable right now, we I had to make a really, really difficult decision last week that involved a senior leader in the organization and helping facilitate their exit. And it was a really, really hard conversation that most of the team was completely invisible to, because we were doing it the right way. We were having conversations in private for a few months. And it was Andy Stanley who says that one hard right personnel decision is worth 1,000 hours of speeches about your culture and your values. And in this case,
Mm.
we were essentially holding account for a situation, and we were caring for the people and the organization. And when the organization sees those playing out in real time, that, boy, we're willing to make hard decisions, but when we do it with love, we do it with care, we do it with grace, we
Mhm.
do it with runway, we do it with honor. Um, and I think it's in those moments that organizations can really make deposits into those accounts of those people that okay, leadership is going to do the hard right thing if that's what needs to be done. And I think, I think that's just an example of how you can be both high expectation, accountability, and real, true, honoring care. And when the organization knows that when those unfortunate situations present themselves, they're going to be handled in a way that is consistent with our values.
Yeah.
And so then that people don't walk around with fear that some leader is going to make a snap decision about someone because they made one mistake or they did something, that's outside the process that we've agreed to or whatever. No, folks know that, yes, we're going to hold people accountable, but we're going to do it in a way that is honoring. And if we do happen to make a decision like that, it will be graceful, and it will be with a heart, with prayerful intention, and they just know that happens. Now, one really simple way that manifests itself, the CEO of Harvest Group has a little vehicle he uses to assess whether a decision was the right decision or the wrong decision. And he says that every personnel announcement, whether it's a promotion, a termination, whatever it is, there's two kinds of reactions from the team. There's, well, duh, or there's, huh? And he says, we want to make people decisions that are duh decisions, not huh decisions. We want every decision we make to have the team say, well, of course that's what you did. Like, that's consistent with our values. Or, of course you promoted her. She's been leading as if for 3 months and she's doing a great job. You never want to make people decisions where the organization says, huh?
Yeah.
And so I just use that as a metric. Anytime I've got to make a accountability decision with someone, I say, hey, can I, with a clear conscience, believe that this decision will be a duh decision? If not, then I probably need to do more work. I probably need to really do a better job of coaching this person, or you're just making sure that we're doing it the right way. So, duh, huh? It's really easy to remember, but boy, it's impactful when you're in the moment.
So, Southwest Airlines, if you've ever flown on a Southwest plane, they have the occasion to wear shorts. And I don't know, you may have heard this story before, but they say, hey, manager, can I wear shorts? And they said, well, I don't know. Let's look at what our core values are. And so they look at the values, and it doesn't say anywhere where you can't wear. It doesn't say anywhere that you have to wear a suit and tie. It says you'll dress casually, and here's our colors. And today, if you get on the Southwest, you'll see they wear shorts. If the weather's appropriate, they're wearing shorts.
Yeah, fascinating.
And they have very, very few rules. And so they set it up to be successful, whereas the other airlines, United and these other ones, have so many rules.
Yeah, it's on page 48 of subsection B in the appendix. And you got to know where to look.
That's impossible to have successful people 100% of the time.
Yeah,
it's
when they don't have agency to make decisions that are aligned with your decision-making framework or your value set. Yeah, that's a great story. That's good.
Yeah. Practices that help retain people in demanding environments. This is a great question. This conversation I had the other day with this guy at Anheuser. They're hiring engineers, and they put them on a production line for 6 months as their mandatory training. These are well-educated engineers, bottling, canning, packing for 6 straight months before they can move into their next step role. And to me, that just sounded so complicated. I'm almost degrading to the engineer that just spent, $150,000 trying to get an education to be the engineer, and now they're told they're going to bottle and can. Let's go.
Yeah.
How do we retain people in demanding environment?
It's interesting. I think the spirit of that program at AB isn't wrong, right? So I think I just toured an organization 2 weeks ago here in Northwest Arkansas that built a new facility, and they're a packing and distribution company for authors. So they stock books and workbooks and things. And I was touring it with one of their newest project managers, and she was telling me that once a quarter, everyone is asked to work a shift on the floor. That's a great idea. Walmart calls it eat what you cook, but it's basically every buyer has to go work in a store and change the set when they push a set out to 5,000, 6,000 stores, they say, you go set it. Go to work in a store and set it. I think the AB spirit took it a little too far, maybe, when they asked an engineer to go work for 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is value in that frontline. I mean, I'm sure you want people in your main office to go ride in a truck and go see what it's like talking to the customer. But yeah, you're right. So the question was, how do we retain talent in this, what I would consider a crazy marketplace for talent right now?
Uh-huh.
Again, common theme, hopefully, for my discussion, it is not super hard. It is not super complex. The way I like to think about it is there are things. Well, first of all, it's really important to know what's important. It's really important to know, certainly in your marketplace, what are the important things that go into kind of an overall package, an overall comp package, benefit package, whatever. And then I think you need to make a decision on, where do we need to be competitive and where can we be unrivaled? And I think it's that magic of, we're competitive on all the things that we need to be competitive on, and then we're unrivaled on some area that is either really important to people or it's really unexpected or unique to our organization. Examples. I have a friend who owns an AV production company, and in that industry, it's also really hard to find and keep folks in the trade of live production, stagehands, and things like that. And in that life is really hard. Like, there's lots of ways that that's not a fun life, to go on the road traveling with a show, and he's made the decision that, I can't remember what specifically it is, but there's some element of road work that is really, really hard on people. And I don't know if it's sharing rooms. I think maybe it's sharing rooms with strangers on the road. And he's decided, and I hope this is the same example. I hope I'm not calling him out here. I believe he's made the decision that when you work for us, you get your own hotel room. So when you're on the road, it's an investment in money. It's not a huge investment. But when you look at all of the other production companies that are all fighting for that same talent, if the comp is comparable, if the access to cool shows is comparable, if the benefits package is comparable, but I don't have to share a room, which is a huge pain point for me and my family, or whatever. So I think if you can decide what's important, and by the way, you do that by doing research and understanding what it actually takes to move the needle in your market, but be competitive on the things that matter the most, and then choose to be unrivaled on either something that is really important or something that is really ownable for you. I think another example from one of my previous companies, they had a partnership with the organization Compassion International. They also had a charitable matching benefit in the organization where they would match you $2 for every $1 that you donated to a 501c3 up to a certain dollar amount. And they did that because they didn't want the company to be the one making donations to charities. They wanted the money to come through the employees, and they wanted the money to go to places where they cared about. Well, you had the opportunity to, through the relationship with Compassion International, you could direct your charitable giving match through their sponsorship program to where you could sponsor a child in an undeveloped or less developed part of the world. Well, one of their benefits was, if you were in that program on your 5th anniversary, they would pay for you to go and meet your child, in our case, in El Salvador. So if you think about being in those kinds of sponsorship programs, you write letters, you send money, you send Christmas gifts, but there's no possible way, there's no scenario where you get to meet that 14-year-old child that you've been sponsoring for 8 years. They made that a part of their benefits package. By the way, one of their benefits as a company is called legacy. And it's, what are you doing to matter for generations to come? And so that's just another example. Did that benefit cause 40 people to choose them over another employer? No. Did that benefit cause that one really high talent, high demand person to join because they care deeply about charitable giving? Yes, I remember that conversation, and we got that talent because we had a benefit like that. So again, I think it's be competitive, but you got to know what that means, and then choose something where you can own unrivaled. And that could be something that's important, or that could be something that is ownable, that is unique to you and ownable.
So pick your non-negotiables, and then maybe market disrupting.
And then decide where you're going to be disruptively wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, again, if you do all that and then you hire them and then your onboarding is terrible and expectations aren't clear and there's no career path, well, you've solved the wrong problem. But if you've got the fundamentals right, imagine the experience when a person receives a job offer and everything in it that's important is competitive. And then there's this one wow benefit. They choose to join your company, and then they have what they call the best onboarding experience they've ever had in their 15 years of working in the industry. And then they have a clear career discussion with their manager at 30 days and 90 days and 365. Like, all of a sudden, you've now got a total package that is unbeatable in the market. And by the way, that none of that started with pay 40% above market. Like, that's not what you need to do when you've got a total strategy, a total person strategy like that.
Yeah. Be competitive, but 40% is not necessary.
Yeah.
Wow. The purpose. People struggle with trying to figure out their purpose. I'll throw up air quotes for that, because that people use that term loosely. They also use it as a leverage. They use it to threat. I mean, it's purpose. And then you go on the missions, what's your purpose? Why are you here? And virtually no one knows. So here's the question on this interview today. It's literally, how do leaders create a sense of purpose in the everyday work for our team? How do we create a sense of purpose?
Yeah. I think I'll start with the cliche, boring answer, and that is, it's not boring, I guess, but it's pretty well understood. If you're really clear on the mission of your organization, and you've got your values clearly articulated, and you get people that are aligned to that mission, that's a pretty good place to start. That does not mean that every person in your organization is going to work with purpose, but if they can feel like they're connected to something greater than themselves, or something greater than their job as a replenishment analyst on a particular category, that's a great place to start. Is really tie into a sense of purpose or a sense of mission for an organization. I will tell you, though, I'll take that a step further, and I know this from my own personal experience. If you can find out what that thing is that makes a person uniquely valuable, or the way I like to describe it is uniquely needed. I don't ever want a young person who I'm sitting across from having coffee, talking to them about making a transition out of ministry into the work marketplace, or someone who's been in a job for 5 years and desperately wants to get in another industry. I don't ever want that person to take a job because it's available and because they're qualified. I want people to take jobs where they will be uniquely needed the minute they show up. And I think that simple concept, while it isn't getting that person to admit what their purpose statement is, it gets to the core of what makes me unique, so that when that hiring manager gets 400 resumes for that hybrid job that's posted, and 300 of the people are qualified with 2 years of experience in replenishment and all the other 2 things that you say are required, how can I make that one candidate stand out? And a great example of that is I worked with a young person who we spent 3 breakfasts and he still could not tell me what made him unique. And so finally I said, go ask your friends. This guy was in college. Go ask your friends what makes you unique. And he came back to the next breakfast and he's like, oh my gosh, 4 of my 6 friends said that when they went to go buy their first TV for their first apartment when they lived on their own, they took me with them because I knew everything there is to know about all the TV technology of today. And I said, now we're cooking with gas. I can send you to my friend, Chris, who's the VP of sales for the Samsung business at Walmart. And there's an entry-level analyst job over there that says job description says you need 2 years of experience working with a particular data set. I said, you got to find a way to neutralize that. And so he went into that interview process knowing more about TVs than the person hiring him did. And they decided that he was going to be so uniquely needed for that open analyst job that they would rather teach him that tool that he was expected to know already, because he brought that unique value to the team that they probably couldn't teach somebody in 2 years. And so that's a very long way to say, I think purpose can be boiled down as simply as understand what unique value you can bring, and then find somebody who will see that as being uniquely needed to them accomplishing their mission. And right there is an instant sense of purpose in any organization.
So applying your true genius.
Yes. Deploying it. I like to say yes. Deploying your pure genius. That's right. That's great.
I always take notes while we're doing these shows, and I have 2 pages full already, and you probably see me kind of sneaking my head down here for a minute to write some things, some little tidbits of things I'll leverage. And we got 2 pages today, so it's been a very
that
good
means
day.
a lot, Jim. Thank you.
So let's wrap up here. We got a couple of things that I want to touch on here.
Yeah.
How do leaders balance? This is a great question, man, because some people say, you got to have that life balance, and I'll throw air quotes on that. Because does that really truly exist? What needs the most attention in the moments tends to get, the attention. But how do leaders balance business demands and the family or the human side of things? How do we do that as leaders?
Man, I will tell you, Jim, we did not talk about this in advance, and you're probably going to wish you hadn't asked me this because I get fired up about it. I'll try to make it a short answer. First of all, I think work-life balance is the wrong measure. And the reason it's the wrong measure is if you do the math, if you take sleep off the table and do the math, if you actually achieve work-life balance, you're working 61 hours a week. I don't know of many people who want to sign up for 61 hours a week every week and call that balanced. So I think balance is the wrong measure. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to find the word I like better. Integrate, work-life integration, work-life harmony, work-life. The one I've come to love is work-life rhythm. And what that means is that there will be chapters, there will be seasons, and there will be moments in your journey where you need to find the right rhythm between work demands and life demands, because we're all the same person. Donnie Smith is famous for saying there's no Monday Donnie and Tuesday Donnie and a different Sunday Donnie. It's just Donnie. And so I really think that if you can find a way to find the rhythm that is right for that season, that rhythm that is right for that chapter in your story, or that rhythm that enables you to be in that one moment, that really important moment, that's where balance, which I know is the wrong word, but that's where that concept can come to life, is knowing where that rhythm lies. And it is not universal. There are seasons, chapters, and moments, and you've got to have the right rhythm for the right season and the right chapter and the right moment.
Well stated. When I was running a homeless facility in San Diego for about 8 years, we had a pack of ministers as part of the team, and then we had a pack of counselors and psychologists, and helping these folks work through some of their life challenges. And I came to the table and I said, we have 180 kids that were homeless, they have fear, they have all kinds of things going on in their heads, and we need to really mentor them. As adults, we need to find time to be with these children, to guide their day. And I'm sitting with this pack of, I say pack, I could say gaggle. It's sitting with all of these psychologists. And they say, well, the reality is, Jim, is that children are impacted in 5 to 10 minute increments, not 8 hours. And that was a really powerful lesson, because I was just like, I'm like, we got to consume their time. We got to make sure they're not getting in trouble anymore. We got to make sure we are part of this. We want to get all these mentors in from all of these corporations. All these leaders need to come in, kind of adopt a child for the day type thing and just spend all this time with these kids. And then they said the reality is you're going to impact them less if you spend 6 or 8 hours with them than if you spent quality 10 minutes with them.
That's incredible.
And
Yeah.
so really, I think balancing really is about that 10 minutes of time in some cases, being totally present where your feet are and literally being in the moment. And that can truly change what balance actually means.
Man, I love that. I'm taking that with me. That's awesome. Because everybody assumes it's hours, right? Yeah, that's true. Everybody assumes it's hours at a time. It's quantity.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's literally the quality of time and being truly present, not staring at the phone, not doing other things, but being truly present. And that really changed my perspective. Just hearing those well-educated and deal with a lot of children. I dealt with 180 at a time in 1 month, and overall, that was thousands per year for these guys. And 10 minutes, you're going to impact them. And if you think about your school year, it made me think about this. We're a little off topic here, but it made me think about how did my teachers impact me? It was a moment in time. It wasn't a lifetime. It was literally a moment. And it's how they showed up, what they said in a moment, how they read something to me. It was literally a moment, and it forever impacted me. So it's literally, how do we balance things? We need to really weigh things and consider what truly a 10-minute can change everything.
And imagine the ROI if you break it down by minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Pretty powerful there. What advice you going to give leaders wanting to invest better in their people? If we're going to give them one thing to take away today when they close their listening device right now, what advice are we going to say? Here's how you help your people. What's this one piece we can give them today?
Yeah, I'm going to circle back to know them. Know what makes them tick. Know what gets them excited. Know what makes them get out of bed in the morning. Know that they prefer 7 Brew over Starbucks. Know that they're motivated by words of encouragement. Just figure out a way to know them on a deeper level. And I'm a huge fan of assessment tools. I know they can get a bad rap sometimes, but I can tell you that I have had immense value come from me and my team completing tools together, because not only do they give you a vocabulary that makes sense across the organization, but they give you deep insights into people and their motivations, and those usually lead to conversations that give you insights into their history and their upbringing. And so I would boil it down, Jim, to figure out a way to know your people on a deeper level. And then you can design all the other things around them uniquely. Their development plan, their career goals, your tough conversations with them. If you know how they respond to tough conversations, plan going in, having a conversation that will land well. There's so many ways you can impact a person by knowing who they are on a deep level.
Yeah. Wow, what a great show today. Steve Blair, tidbits of information, value bombs as we call them, Steve. It's literally some tidbits. My 2 pages of content today will be used for years, days in the coming months. It's a lot of powerful pieces here today. It's lead with influence, positive impact, not fear. It's the team. It's hear them, see them, and know them. Some words from Steve today. Very powerful, people. Thanks for tuning in, listening in to Visionary Leader. I'm Jim Robinson, your host. Thanks for being here today. Thank you, Steve, for being here.
Thank you, Jim. It was a pleasure.